win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of green. So long, you better catch a God, throw him the scenes. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Welcome. That's all I got to say. Can you believe this is season 2?
Season 2. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And it's funny how season 2 actually fell in the new year. It's not like we've been doing season 1 all last year, but it felt like we was doing it for a long time with 12 episodes. Yeah. Or is it technically, what is 12? It wasn't 14. It was actually 12 because we did the Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And then we did the Christmas. And if you're new to the Knight&Craig show, we encourage you to go back, binge watch season 1. Not like you got to get caught up. You know, you might learn some of the characters and some of the terms we'll be using, but I'm sure we'll be using some of those terms even into season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it because I was listening to the intro and I heard that's my son's track. And I heard him say, success means that I did what he's seen. And he's talking about like success being what God says or how he sees for our life. And I didn't hear that lyric before. So I'm gonna have to give him a pat on the back for that one.
Give him a big old hug and a good big old slap and mama kiss.
So proud of him. So
He's a good dude. In fact, I haven't talked to him this year. I got to call him.
Yeah, you in trouble. He mentioned your name the other day.
Did he really?
He did. He was like, yo, what's up with cousin Craig? And I was like, he's fine.
Well, let me text him while we getting into this thing, just so I can say good morning. He's probably, I'm sure he's up and about already. So
no,
he sleep.
Yeah, he's a night owl. He works late, and then he just made another song actually, and I haven't heard it yet, so I hope to hear it this weekend.
Wow. That's awesome. I just moved my studio to behind me. It's probably over that shoulder over there now. So it's a little different than it was on the other side, on this side of the room. Just got its own little space over there now. So
yeah.
So season 2.
We are diving in head first. I was doing some reflection as I typically do, but doing some reflection. And I'm like, we started off season 1 with the series. And now we're starting off season 2 with the series. I think we did a couple shows before we realized it was a series, but ultimately it became a 4-part series. And so we're jumping into a 5-part series. And I'm telling you, it's going to be very, very interesting. Several years ago, I was downloaded some information, and y'all who've been watching the show knows that means there was a divine inspiration around forgiveness and the steps that we need to take in order to forgive ourselves and forgive others, and that harboring all of that is just not good for us on the journey that we're on. So real quick, I want to go through those steps and then know that each part of the series will be focusing on the steps. And as Craig and I were preparing, we figured we probably should give you all the steps up front, because there's going to be times where we probably jump kind of in and out of conversation about where we are. And so we want you to be able to follow along on that journey. So today we're going to be focusing on step 1, which is admitting that there is something to be forgiven. Now, this might sound simple, but as we started dialoguing about it, we realized that it wasn't as simple as it might seem. Step 2 is name it. Name whatever that thing is that you need to forgive, to take away its power. So many times we get stuck on a feeling, and when we can name it, then we can deal with it. So that's what that will be about. Step 3 is forgive yourself by acknowledging your part. And we kind of talk about this in season 1 throughout as kind of like a thread of owning where we are, of owning our part in our journey, and definitely on this journey to forgiveness. We definitely have to do that. And then number 4 is forgive your offender. Ouch. Because sometimes we feel like they're getting away with something. And You might heard that old adage that forgiveness is for you, not for them. Well, I'm a firm believer that it's true. So how do you do that? And then finally, letting go to live, letting go and living the best life that you can, because sometimes revenge might seem sweet, but your best revenge is living the life that you really desire to live. So those are the steps we'll be talking about. And we're going to kick it off with step one. And I'm going to let you have it for a minute because I've been talking.
Well, I was just thinking while you're reading the steps, it's like, man, oftentimes we want to jump to the last step because the revenge part is the best part, because you know what I'm saying, we all got a little Cat Williams in us, you know what I'm saying? So I
Mm, I didn't hear revenge.
I know you got two things.
The two things always. I didn't hear revenge, and two, truth. Your truth is your truth.
Yeah.
And when people can't dispute your truth, it sounds like even more accurate truth.
Yeah. Especially when you get into those things where, you know, people don't want to hear it, people don't want to listen to you, people don't want to admit it, and they want to just say things. But anyway, I think that's even draws us back to step one. Admit that there's something to be forgiven, because I know there's people that have done us in a certain way.
Yeah.
That really makes us feel some kind of way. And I think it's tough. I know for me, when folks do that, it's like, man, you know, I don't always want to have to keep going in somebody's face and, you know, punching them in the head. And then I know you're not supposed to be violent, you know, they're not supposed to turn the other cheek, supposed to be, you know, but, you know, there's just moments where even a conversation with someone about what they've done can turn into something, we're going to say, clarifying, right? Because it's tough to get people to understand sometimes what they did. And then sometimes people actually will turn and go, you know, I didn't realize that was a problem. I didn't realize it hurt you. I didn't realize that was a thing. And it's a challenge, because even when we do that, we have to really look at what we have done, didn't do, who we are, and where we are with the situation, because we may have been leading the other person to believe that what they did was okay, that we were just going to accept any kind of thing in our lives, and it's just not the case, you know.
And we were talking about that, you know, I don't know where this conditioning came from, but if you apologize to me, Craig, then I go, oh, it's okay. It's not okay to say it's okay. It's the acknowledgement of, dang, that hurt, that sometimes keeps us from admitting that there is something to be forgiven, because we've been used to and conditioned to sweep these things under the carpet by saying it's okay. And then we're actually affirming that behavior that was done is okay. So people don't even know sometimes that they're doing something that you have a problem with, because we're saying it's okay. We're giving them the permission to continue to behave in this way. So admitting that there's something to forgive sometimes means going back and going, actually, that wasn't okay, and determining why it wasn't okay for you.
Yeah, because our culture is a non-confrontational culture, right? And even though we think it's a confrontational culture, it's more of a dictatorial culture, even though we run it as a democratic system, right? But people want us to do what they say to do without question. And if there's a question or comment, there's usually something wrong with us. Oh, you don't clearly understand. And that has nothing to do with that. And when we do things like that and allowing things to go by unchecked, unquestioned, that can make us feel like, I shouldn't have let that happen. I shouldn't have let them do that to me. And then in that, looking at ourselves that way, like you mentioned before, not doing anything about it, not speaking up for ourselves, that can make us feel like leave a little bit more angry with the situation that we're in. And instead of dealing with that acquiescence first, we want to go right after the person and make it their fault for even us stepping back. And we all own a piece of everything. And I think that's the tough part, even with this series, is that admission. And I know there was one of the bullets we had that, where's the one about admissions, show? That there's a pain and a cost.
You know what? I'll get that for you right now, because this is what you said.
No worries.
And nope, got it. Listen, I got you.
Yes, and that's the part. As you're getting that up, that's the painful part, is that there's a pain part to admitting that we have a problem, that we have a part in the whole thing, is that the admission to admittance can be high and painful. And that was a tough thing to swallow when we were doing our prep for the
Yeah.
series, because we don't want to believe that there's a problem. That we don't want to have to pay anything in this. We don't want to have to admit that we've got a fault in this whole thing. I got some folks in my community
Mm-hmm.
that I'm out of community with
Mm-hmm.
because there's some pain points that I have to admit my part of the reason why we're disconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned going back just like a couple of sentences ago. You mentioned that the dictatorship, and sometimes there's a question that a person may ask, and that question to bring clarification is actually necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like in my studies with crucial conversations, it's, is there something that has happened that warrants an apology? Meaning, not I stepped on your foot, but I stepped on your soul. I stepped on your heart. I stepped on your emotions. I didn't acknowledge something that was important to you. And in that way, if I'm doing that knowingly or unknowingly, but yet that is the impact, I owe you an apology.
Yeah.
I owe you, and I'm sorry, or I owe you that.
Yeah.
If there is a misunderstanding, I misunderstood something that you said, that actually warrants the clarification through a question. You know, what did you mean by that? And that, what did you mean by that? A lot of times when we're in our defensive posture, what do you mean? What I mean by that? As if the other person is a mind reader and should know exactly what you meant, because sometimes what we say isn't always what we mean, how we mean it to be said. And then other times, it's the truth. It's all in your tone. It's all in your attitude. But in those moments where you heard what I said and I said what I said, but I didn't mean it that way,
Yeah.
we have to be open to being asked the questions, because the truth lies within that clarification. You can walk away thinking one thing when I say, "What do you mean?" And that might not even mean what I meant, But if I allow you that space to be human, if I allow you that space to give you grace, the same grace that I want, then we can walk away on mutual ground versus on dissenting views over something that we actually do agree about. And I'm finding more and more that opportunity is not given, especially as it relates to the hierarchy of relationships with parents to kids, or kids to grandparents, or what have you. So I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic when
I
you talk
find
about the high
while
cost.
you were talking, I thought to myself, man, clairvoyance isn't something that we're all capable of. You know what I'm saying? We're not always, prophetically able to tell exactly what the next thing is or what was truly meant by what was said. And because we hear different things from what was actually being said,
We're hearing
sometimes,
through our lens, and
oh
we're
yeah,
processing based
sure.
on our own experiences. So yeah, it's going to be different without that clarification.
Yeah, and it's oftentimes, how often are we really present in the conversation? Were we really
Mm,
listening to the person who was talking, or were we on our phones? Were we doing whatever? Were we just in our minds? Were we just like, hearing them as Charlie Brown's teacher? Why? And then
yeah.
something clarified up real quick that we can
Mhm.
hear. So we missed all of the context. We missed all of the other things that we needed to hear to clarify our defensive posture that we just took and folded our arms or whatever else. And so I think if we would just pay attention and be present in the moment instead of trying to do all this microwave life and get to this, to that, get to that, and stop talking and get to the next thing, and we would be so much better. In fact, case in point, I just had the same problem with Ryan and Kaden, my two middle sons. I had
Mhm.
they were going to ride the train to Los Angeles from Carlsbad, and and go to attend an event that they were going to with their college,
Nice. Mhm.
camping group. And I, they're becoming used to, because I'm setting the boundaries and announcing what my schedule is, so they don't think dad's just sitting around looking for some way to serve them and cart them around somewhere. And
Why not,
you
Daddy?
know, like, yeah, how may I serve you? And I'm not gonna be hopping around on one leg barking like a dog. We're looking for something to
A
do.
big dog.
A big dog. You know what I'm saying? So when right, and I told him I would take you. Originally, I told him I could take him, but when I announced my schedule, their schedules
Mhm.
collided, and I told him, I said, look,
Mm,
as best I can, if meeting A can be done in this amount of time, then I'll take you
yeah,
because I have a meeting B, and I'm choosing not to be late
yeah.
to my meeting to be
Mhm.
convenient for you. However, if you want it to be convenient to everyone or to me, we would need to
Yeah.
leave earlier so I can get back from my meeting number one. And
Mhm.
Ryan wasn't listening. He went back, why we gotta leave so early? And wow, well, you said you have a meeting. I'm like, and that was a trigger for me because a trigger
Yes.
or so in my admission is not being listened to and overlooked and
Mm,
bypassed and made to feel like who and what I am is not important.
yes.
That admittance to that admission was high because
Yes.
I knew that it was in there,
Yes.
but I didn't know it was in there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I thought I had dug that thing out, but that
Yes.
it's a root in there for me.
Yes.
So now I'm working on that, and we had a heated exchange back and forth, and he was trying to clarify. No, no, that's not what I meant. And I said, well, but let me just make sure you understand.
Yes.
My schedule is just as important to me as your schedule is to you.
Yes.
And so we had to set that ground rule, and I did my best
Yes.
to not be angry toned,
Mhm.
but
I
but
don't know how good you did, but
I don't I probably didn't do a good job because I was already printing. I was already in the midst of doing whatever, and I was bouncing, doing some other things at the time,
mhm.
and there was no other help because these gentlemen are also a part of this corporation too,
Yes.
and weren't helping. And they had some chores they were working on outside that they had
Yes.
waited several weeks to get after. And I was already frustrated because now these two were leaving, not doing the chores
Yes.
that were already in process. So that was a friend of mine, Errol Woods, people say God rest his soul. He would always say there was a whole lot of conflama drama in my house at the time.
Yeah. Earl's great.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. So how did I know we are blood cousins, y'all.
Mhm.
First cousins, our parents, our mom and Craig's dad are brother and sister. And how in the world did we inherit the same trigger trait? I'm telling you, Mary Louise Carlisle Page, my mother is still with me, Lord Jesus, and she is classic in her way of not being present. Um, she asked a question like, "How was your day?" And then next thing you know, she's doing this because the TV is on.
Squirrel.
And I'm talking about my day that you asked me this question. And then she goes, "Oh, hold on. Let me turn this off." Okay, what'd you say? Don't ask me to repeat myself when you're not listening, because that's part two of that trigger.
Yeah.
If you were listening, I told you I responded to the question that you asked. So are you not understanding the words that are coming out of your mouth? So clearly that's a problem. There's a root there.
Yeah.
Well, what I started doing, and she hates it when I do it, but I have to for my sanity. I will say, she'll ask me a question and I will respond with, "Mom, are you asking this question out of curiosity? Are you asking this question because you want to have dialogue? And are you prepared to listen? Because I don't want to repeat myself." So this admission and this admittance is like, I'm tired of being in pain
Yeah.
by not using my voice to tell you that something is bothering me for the sake of our relationship, you being my mom, and I don't want to correct you. I'm over it.
Yeah.
So what I'm starting to do, or what I started to do, was be very clear. When you do this, it triggers me in a way where I feel dismissed. I used to say disrespected. She's also chronically late. I believe that that is being late without communication.
Yeah.
Let me clarify.
Yeah.
Being late without communication annoys me because it feels like you're wasting my time, and I don't have time to waste, because I'm not, because I'm so busy and I'm so wonderful, but I'm very methodical and I plan my day. I understand everyone doesn't have to be as organized as I like to be, but when you don't communicate,
Yeah.
then it feels even more like a dismissal. So anyway, all these things, and this is why we're doing this show, because we all have things and we know that we're not alone. But I have to forgive her,
Yeah.
when she does that.
Yeah.
And I say I have to, and I get to, because she's still with me, and at some point, that's my mom. I'm not gonna disown her, but I get to forgive her and give her another chance. And I think the gift that I'm giving her is my honesty and my admission of the impact, intentional or unintentional, that it's having on me, so I can sleep good at night.
So there's a banner I want to put up there.
Hmm.
So it fits, because you said we're talking about giving a gift, and I think I
Yeah.
talked about this on just a social media post. Is that if we lived our life as if every day were Christmas, right?
Yeah. We
We are
talked
able,
about this in our show
in our
at the end of the year,
yep,
but you did. I saw that. Yeah.
and we're able to then give people those gifts that they are going to need to, part of me wants to say, survive our conversation, and for
Mm,
our relationship to thrive, right?
yes.
For us to ever
Hmm.
break through and thrive, we're going to
Hmm.
need to give gifts, and we're going to need to be able to receive gifts as well. So
Hmm.
if, as you're giving your mom the gift of that peace and your clarity and who you are, and you're giving the gift of your boundary, right?
Right.
She needs
Hmm.
to accept the gift of your boundary and understand that. And so what you described, I try to do with my kids, because with me being the only active parent for them,
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to make them feel like there's no one listening to them. Even though there's so
Mm,
many days, sure, I really could. I know, boys, if you're watching, I apologize, but there's some days where I really don't give a rip what you did today. But
whew.
that's
Okay. I'm
that's
glad
just
you fit. I'm glad you made that TV ready, because we don't have a bleeper
the 7 second
on
delay.
StreamYard.
You
I
know
was
what I'm
like,
saying?
woo! And you're gonna hear it.
Yeah. I
And
didn't want to
we're
use
back.
I didn't want to do like Tim Ross says and use the strong language, but I just
Strong language.
I just didn't. There's moments where, it's just being honest and real, we really don't care. We're caring about what we're doing at that moment, and whether it be work related, maybe it's resting, maybe it's watching your favorite program, maybe it's reading your favorite book, maybe it's taking a nap.
Mm.
So whatever the distraction is, or in some people, maybe it's surfing on their phone, whatever.
Sorry. The I I was watching. I haven't watched Pete Davidson comedy before, but last night it was on the TV. Um, Not necessarily my style of comedy, but he said that his mom would say, everything, every solution was go take a nap. Well, did you take a nap? It's like, I'm having a heart attack. Maybe you need a nap. So that's what made me think about that. So my
Oh
brain went,
yeah,
"Whoop, squirrel."
no
But
problem.
no, you're right. Sometimes we're when we're needing more grace than we communicate,
Yeah,
sometimes it's easy to be offended. You were talking earlier about the chores and stuff,
yeah, yeah.
not being done. And then it was like, and now you want me to take you here, and now you want me to adjust my schedule. So there's this piling up,
Yeah.
that this compounded thing that's happening because you didn't address the first thing. And we do, yes, humans, we do that. We
Yeah.
oftentimes, when we're not in this place where we're admitting where we are,
Yeah.
We're blowing up. When I'm doing marriage coaching, or couples coaching, and there's this videos that says it's not about the nail. We should probably post that. It's
Mm,
old, but
right.
literally the lady has a nail in her forehead, and she's talking about all of this tragedy that's happening as a result of this thing, this thing, and she's not saying what it is because she doesn't want to deal with the thing. And the husband is trying to, you know, gingerly, talk to her without acknowledging that this nail is in her head, because she just wants him to listen,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if you would deal with that thing, so that's step number two, it is naming that thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you would deal with that, you wouldn't be snagging your sweaters. You wouldn't be doing this, because I teach that it's never about that the trash didn't go out. That
Yeah.
that's you're not really angry that they didn't take the trash out. It's that they didn't take the trash out for the last 100 times and you were silent about it. Now you're blowing up
Yeah.
because you didn't admit what the problem was.
Yeah. 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 Because that's the tough part. Because that part too is it makes you feel dismissed
Yes.
because they're not listening, they're not doing the chores, but yet everything you said. Now you want something back from me,
Yes.
and all I wanted from you was this. And that push and pull leads to so many destroyed relationships, failed marriages, families that are estranged, friends that no longer are friends because
Mhm.
the needs of each one of us are not being met. And
Yes.
not meeting the needs of a person is something I have to admit in a relationship that, man, it hurts when a person that that you would go to the wall for won't even come to the phone for you. And that's tough, man.
Woo, you
All
need to
those
write that one
times
down.
that
Write that one down.
we've done something for somebody, drove miles, gave money to, sat up all night with, listen to every harebrained idea they may have, but you ain't got 2 seconds for me.
Yeah.
And I know we talked in our time together about certain examples being specific, and
Mhm.
in writing our book, sometimes the names have to be changed to protect the innocent or the guilty.
And the guilty.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna
Yeah.
protect the guilty party. I
Okay.
remember asking a person that was really close to me, and I said was past tense, because I was having a really tough time. And I was doing something that I thought was where the Lord wanted me to be, was very important to me.
Mhm.
They didn't agree. And that's fine,
Mhm.
because the Lord doesn't have to give anyone confirmation about what's going on in my life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So he gave us the gift of our relationship together,
Yes.
not a gift to anyone else of what our relationship looks like.
Mhm.
So all I did was call this person and say, "Hey, I'm having a tough time. This is
Mhm.
what's going. Can you pray for me?"
Mhm.
Do you know they wouldn't even do that? I had
Mm.
never had anybody not even pray. They gave
Wow.
me a lecture and got off the phone.
Th-
Yeah,
Okay.
on the for real. Gave me a lecture and got off the phone.
I'm trying. My brain is double dutching judgment. Because I that hits, like my heart in a way that I've I can empathize with needing help
Mhm.
and calling on someone that I've helped, or we've had a mutual relationship of help. And when I really, really needed them, they weren't, they, the, the way that they showed up was almost doing the exact opposite of what I asked them to do.
Yeah.
I asked for candles, and they did bring me candles, but they brought me candelabra candles, and I didn't even have the, I was looking for like a $5.99, smell good candle. It didn't have to be fancy. It was just this is what I asked for, and this is what you bring. So it was almost in spite,
Yeah.
or out of spite, and that's hurtful. I was able to forgive that person through conversation. They were able to forgive me. I didn't realize that me not doing what they wanted me to do at the time when I didn't have the capacity to do anything but what I could, um, hurt them as deeply as it did. And it took some years. And we were able to reconcile through forgiveness because that relationship was important to me. And this is what was coming up for me. Do we care enough, for that other person to apologize? Um, so I don't know the person that you're protecting their identity, if you ever had the opportunity to talk to them about that moment and how that made you feel, or if that's a relationship that you're choosing not to reconcile, even if you forgive that transgression. Um, yeah. You also brought up, and I'm going to pull this up because these kind of go hand in hand. Um, the difference between asking for forgiveness versus an apology. And so I've had both.
Yeah.
You were saying you have not experienced one of these.
Yeah, because as we were talking, an apology comes from the other person, or is given to. We're giving it away an apology if it's from us, or in our case, if we think we're due one, it needs to come from the opposite person, right?
Got it?
And
Hmm.
depending on what's going on in the situation, maybe both people need to apologize. So that's a verb and action that needs to happen. And forgiveness is
Yeah.
an action word too. But in some cases, or honestly, in every case,
Hmm.
the forgiveness part needs to come from both people. An apology doesn't always have to be both ways, but for both people to receive the healing that they need to move on in their life, forgiveness has got to be given. It doesn't necessarily have to be even expressed to the other person, because if I hurt you or if I hurt anyone, they don't need to know, or if I'm hurt by someone, they don't ever need to know that I forgive them. Now, maybe some people, if you're going through um, some drug addiction program, through like we talked about in the first season, the
Oh, yeah.
12-step process. Yes, there is a
Yeah.
making recompense or going to those that you've wronged, trying to get that forgiveness, trying to give the apology and get the forgiveness, to better calm your own soul, so to speak, or how you feel.
Hmm.
I get that. But there are many cases where, in a couple of my cases, if you're ever looking for an apology from a dead person,
Yeah.
you're not going to get that till you get on the other side. And in
Yeah.
some of those cases, for some people, you're going to have to get on the other side of hell to get that from them. So if you go into hell to go get it, you got a problem.
Good.
So you can always give the forgiveness to a dead person, because it's for you, it's for us, it's to help us become better.
Hmm.
But if you're looking for, longing for, have to have, need to have, otherwise you can't go on, you're going to build that altar and die on that hill because I didn't get that apology from Papa Joe Smurf, whatever, you're gonna be die yourself blue, because he's not even breathe no more, because they don't owe you anything.
What did you eat this morning?
I didn't actually. I just had some juice. This is
That,
my
maybe this is the problem. A friend of mine sent this meme. She said when she's hungry. It said when I'm hungry, um, I'm mad and everybody's ugly or something like that.
no,
Like you need to eat something, sir.
no,
Uh,
I'm trying to fast. Maybe that makes me mad. I'm trying to fast.
oh
I'm trying to
yeah,
lose weight. I'm trying to do better.
that's good. I still do intermittent fasting. It works for me. You hit a nerve because this this statement right here, asking for forgiveness versus an apology, is how these steps came to me because I I know at least two times in my life I know that I deserved an apology.
Sure.
And two times in my life I had to live my life without that apology,
Yeah.
in spite of that apology, and still forgive. And that's it's difficult when you're angry.
Ooh,
And I
yeah,
had to make a decision that not only was I'm not going to give these people my power by staying angry,
mhm,
and I understood that the forgiveness of myself was important
yeah,
because I allowed those situations to go on so long.
yeah,
I could not demand an apology because you can't make anybody do anything.
yeah,
Um, and I had to understand that I'm never going to get that apology. But am I going to die and stop following my dreams today because I don't get this apology? I mean, literally, sometimes we have to think in those extremes. Am
yeah,
I going to stop washing my face? Am I going to stop going to work? Am I going to stop dreaming? Am I going to stop loving other people because
mhm,
two people that did me wrong, I'm going to hold on to that wrong
yeah,
for the rest of my life
yeah,
and continue to give them that power when I realized how silly that was? I understand it was a process.
yeah,
So if this is you, if this is someone that's listening to this right now, it's a process.
yeah,
But it comes with first admitting that, dang, I'm still mad. I'm
yeah,
still whatever.
yeah,
There's something inside of me that I need to let go of that's holding me back from a person that I could care even less than I already care about. But I'm going to continue to give them that power. This is why this topic is so important, because I was being held back by it.
we'll
And
tell
I'm
you.
sure other people are as well.
Well, I tell you, there's a picture that I want us to post on our social online. It may be a little too graphic for some, so I wouldn't post it here during this recording until we both walk through and talk through it. But there's an image,
Mm,
and you may have seen it, where it's actually one of these big boa constrictors snakes. It's a pretty sizable
mm,
size snake, and it's,
mhm.
for whatever reason, it found itself angry and coiled around a handsaw. Now, some of us may not even know what a handsaw is. 'Cause some of us ain't done no real manual labor in so long, and it's a long saw, right? And this
Yes.
thing, in the picture, it probably looks like maybe saw was probably, yeah, a foot or two long, right?
Hmm.
But this
Hmm.
big boa constrictor snake started to wrap itself around the saw to squeeze it to
Mm,
death because it was
mm,
angry that the saw that was not attached to anything, minding its own business, had done something to the snake to make it mad. And those of you
hmm.
who don't know what a boa constrictor snake is, it actually will wrap itself around its prey and squeeze it to death,
Right.
and then
Constrict.
constrict and then eat it. Well, in
Hmm.
this case, it's squeezing a handsaw, and the tighter and more viciously this snake squeezed this saw,
It's
it's
killing
running,
itself.
cutting it and killing itself.
Yeah.
And when I was reading the post that the person wrote, describing the situation, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been this boa constrictor around
Mm,
the saw several
hmm.
times in my life with people who
Hmm.
I've loved who couldn't love me in the way that I needed to love back, and I was angry, and I was
Mm,
squeezing, trying to preserve this relationship so much that I was
yeah.
killing myself." But I'm
Hmm.
thankful that I'm not that anymore, and I don't want to give anybody else ever again that kind of power over my mind, over my heart, over my body, to
Hmm.
make them have their way if it
Hmm.
goes against who I am,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I encourage you, if you find yourself
Yeah.
listening or watching, when you have your constriction days wrapped around things that are painful, and the more and more you squeeze to keep a thing in place or in your life,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to let it go. And in fact, almost in every case, you've got to let it
Absolutely.
go to save yourself. I don't give a rip about the other person. You got
that
to let
that's
that
that's
go.
the admittance part, right? That's
Yeah.
the admittance part, that when we've done that, sometimes there can even be a little bit of guilt or shame that
Yeah.
we feel naturally. And what I would want people to change their mindset around the guilt and the shame is replace that with freedom.
Yeah.
Replace that with, I'm no longer bound by this thing because it's coming out of my mouth, which gives me an opportunity to deal with it. That there
Yeah.
is a problem. I had a client, and I challenged her. She had a lot of issues, her own admittance of issues with forgiving and forgiveness, and where she was, and even being tethered to a past that she couldn't change. It was just like,
Right.
so make a list of everything that you think you need to admit um, needs forgiveness in your life, and you're probably going to be on that list at some point.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
probably going to be on that list at some point, but make this list. And my challenge to her was, when you make this list and we review it together and,
Mhm.
and talk through this, you're going to find more than likely that there's a pattern
Yeah.
of the type of people that need to be forgiven, that you need to forgive, meaning there's a behavior that's associated to those people that you're somehow attracted to. So you have to deal with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then you might find that by forgiving one person, because the tentacles and the branches go so deep,
Sure.
by forgiving one person, you unlock some other people, because you realize that the root of it wasn't necessarily the 10 or 15 people down the road that you're angry with now. It's
Yeah.
because this one situation happened, and then you plastered that thought process, that feeling, that hurt, that pain on these other 15.
Yeah.
So I'm a post this. This is actually one of my Me at 3 a.m. Quotes as well. Forgiveness is multifaceted because of
Mm.
how deep some of these roots go. And you know what I just thought about, Craigie, is that sometimes we're told something, or we're taught something, or we believe something
Yeah.
that is not true,
Yeah.
that is the cause of us in the being in the place where we need to forgive. So all this time I've believed a lie,
Yeah.
and now I find out the truth. That was in a movie too. Have you seen this Netflix series, Louder Milk?
No. No. No.
Have
No.
you
I'm gonna
watched that
watch it then.
before?
Uh,
You would like it. You would like it. It goes back to like the AA meetings and things like that with this particular group. I don't want to spoil the movie if somebody's going to watch it, but at the end of the day, the young lady who was destroying her life with drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, all of those things, angry with her, one of her parents found out that it was actually the other parent
mm,
that was actually at fault.
yeah.
But she spent so much time being angry with the parent that wasn't at fault because of her perception and her better relationship with the parent that she thought was perfect. And I see that in this. I see that in realizing when we can get to the point where we can admit that there is something that needs to be forgiven, when we actually unravel it, it's taking hold like that constrictor in so many aspects of our life. And by dealing with the one aspect, we could really have the freedom that we've been looking for.
And I love this quote too, because as you were describing it, if you think of a diamond or the facets, different faces, different angles, that allows us to look at a situation
Yes.
differently and even see ourselves. As I don't, how many of us have been to carnivals anymore that had those mirror rooms, and you're able to see,
Yes.
or even if you go to a tailor and you're into, sometimes they have the three pane mirror where you want to be able to see the different angle. How is this outfitter looking on me?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to see a different side of a
Yes.
situation. And sometimes out of the corner of our eye, something may look like it's something totally different or something scary. We snap real quick and look at it. And then when we
Yes.
focus on what we saw, sometimes what we thought we saw is not even there. It's an
Mm-mm.
aberration. It's some thought in our mind that made us feel as if there was something over there that needed
Mm-hmm.
our attention. But in reality, there was nothing there. It was a shadow. And I find often that we live our lives chasing shadows,
Mm-hmm.
overhearing parts of conversation, trying to ear hustle and get something from somebody
Yes.
that
Yes.
you have no context to.
Yeah.
And that's tough. It's really
Mm-hmm.
tough. But I love this. In giving forgiveness to your point earlier, allows other situations to change view also. And
Mm-hmm.
it allows us, I think, to give that gift of being a better person to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we are better, then the people we come in contact get a better version of us, and maybe someone
Absolutely.
else needs our better.
Yeah.
Share a quick story. Last night I went to one of Jackson's first basketball game of this new season,
Nice.
and normally, pretty much every time I go, I want to just sit in the gym by myself because
Mm-hmm.
I'll say some things about what's going on the floor from a coach's perspective that I like or don't like. Most of us I don't like because I'm not coaching, so it's always easy to find the negatives, right?
The fault, yeah.
And oh yeah, and so I don't also want to be in the case so often where you find yourself talking to a bunch of other disgruntled parents that are saying
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. And sometimes in those numbers, the conversation gets louder. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the people who are in agreement with what's going on in the administration can overhear what's not going, what's not in
Mm-hmm.
agreement. I don't like that. So last night, I was so stealthy last night. I had my hoodie on over my head and everything that my own son didn't even know I was in the gym.
Mm.
And as soon as the game was over, we were winning by a big number and only wound up winning by 3
Mm-hmm.
instead of in it was just that's a different story, different subject, different segment.
Uh-huh.
As soon as the buzzer went up, I got up and left because he was riding the
Mm-hmm.
bus home. So what he didn't need to know, he normally could see me in the gym anyway. It's easy to see me, and I'm like Coach Prime. I ain't hard to find in those gyms, right?
Yeah.
So I just assumed he saw me.
Mm-hmm.
He got home and we started talking a little bit later. He goes, I said, "Oh yeah, you guys almost lost tonight, huh?" Yeah, well, they almost got us. And he starts talking as if I didn't see it. I was like,
Uh-huh.
well, I watched it. I saw the whole thing. Oh, you were there? So to
Mm.
your point, there's sometimes in our forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people even need to know that we've forgiven them. Sometimes people really need to know what we're doing because
Yes.
it's for them to get a healing and maybe change their perspective or view on us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. There are a couple two things, of course. Um, I love this that when we apologize, when that forgiveness takes place, that the best indicator that we have as human beings is change behavior, meaning I'm not going to do what I did before to be in this place to
Yeah.
need your forgiveness or for myself to
Yeah.
admit that something needs to be forgiven because I'm
Yeah.
going to deal with that. The other thing is I didn't see this before.
Mm.
For meaning pre, right? Pre give, um, forgive. There's a part of forgiveness that is kind of like, do you believe that you should trust, or that trust is earned? Should
Mm.
you automatically trust, or is trust earned? And I'm the type of person that I'm going to start off trusting.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that. And in the same way, forgive, I'm going to start off in a place where, like you said, I want to be a better version of myself. I'm going to give from myself
Yeah.
before I expect to be given to. Does that make sense?
It does. And the difficult part with that is for those who've been hurt before, trying not to be hurt again, which is impossible.
Yes.
And I went on a rant yesterday with another friend who is a music producer, and he was working with another music producer and artist. And that friend said, "Hey, I'm going to remain an independent artist because I'm not going to be hurt again."
Mm,
And that was a trigger for me. So I had to
hmm.
admit that I was triggered because you can never be not hurt again.
Yeah.
Where I lived 2 years after the late wife died, where I wouldn't go outside unless I had to do something that the kids needed, specifically groceries, go to another event, what I'm saying, for them, an event. I wasn't doing anything for me. I wasn't interacting with anybody because I was guaranteeing and promising myself and my family that we were never going to be hurt again.
And there's a wall. You talked
Eh,
about the moat, but there's a wall, there's a
Right.
barrier
It's a
that
barrier.
happens when you make those types of declarations.
But
Um,
the reality is, because I'm human and flawed,
yes.
and I had
Yes.
I had closed up the other inmates in the asylum with the loony, which is the owner of the asylum. We were
Yeah.
all going to hurt each other by being on the inside together because we were already hurt, and we're
Yes.
human. So there's no
Yes.
way to prevent that from happening ever. So this
Yeah.
the changing of our behavior really comes when we get hurt, and when we hurt someone else. But then we need to realize that that behavior needs to change, because left
Hmm.
unchecked, we would never know that that behavior that we did was faulty.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the communication aspects of that is me being open to give of myself,
Mhm.
um, you being open to receive me for who I say I am, and vice versa. Role reverse. You being willing to share a part of you, and me being willing to accept that who you're sharing is who you really are.
Yeah,
And that kind of goes all the way full circle back to season one, around show them who you are, and are you being you, or are you being you with me?
yeah,
um and
yeah.
I think when we can see people for who they are, period,
Mhm.
by them being them, them being their authentic self, which I understand is a journey for many of us,
Sure.
because we have been hurt, there have been some lived experiences, but it's through that communication of, hey, that reminds me of this,
Yeah,
and not holding you hostage in a place where I haven't been able to forgive, or I haven't learned how to be myself all the time, regardless of the circumstance, so that I'm not continuing to build these barriers and these walls that
yeah,
have kept me hostage in my own heart and in my own mind.
yeah. It's tough, but it's fun though sometimes to be away from people, because we think
You
we're safe.
always say that.
Yeah, but but it isn't fun at the same time. Because
Yeah.
it's the two sides of the same coin. Sometimes you just need
Mhm.
a recovery and a refresher to get away and take the quiet moment. Yes, that's true.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
then, but to live on that island, and I know the Lord gave me years ago that islands are for vacations, not for
Mm.
isolation. Because
Mm.
living in isolation is not healthy, because we don't ever grow. We remain a
No.
small-minded, small person that doesn't have any other challenges than, in the case of an island, I need something to eat now. It's the only thing we grow, you know?
Yeah, but also there's the risk. We're why as human beings, we're wired to connect. Where our brains and our whole body is to be. I don't want to get graphic, but um, how could I change this? We're wired to connect.
Yeah,
Human beings need human interaction, and when people are isolated, there tends to be mental challenges or mental deficiencies that arise from that.
yeah,
You can see that through isolation in prison. You can see that through the movie Castaway. You can see that, there our brains don't function the same way without the connection that we have with other human beings. That's why we have to be considerate of what we're giving. We
right.
have to be considerate of what we're receiving. There's
Yeah,
the graphic part.
yeah,
Who you allow in your natural space, and who you allow in your physical space, who you allow to occupy your mental space, your emotional space, your sexual, your spiritual space matters, because we continue to carry a part of those people with us.
yeah,
So we have to make sure that what's being deposited in all aspects of our being is positive, and it's helpful. And when it's not, it needs to be discharged and put over here, never to be touched again. Because now we're tainting ourselves, and now we're at this place where, how do I forgive myself? How do I admit that there's something that needs to be forgiven? How do I change my behavior such that I don't allow that to happen again, in truth and acknowledgement, without the barrier that every single person is going to be like that person over here. It's really about us.
yeah.
It's
And
really
that's
about us.
tough, because some of us need the connection so much that we don't believe that we need, and
Hmm.
then we're caught in almost like in an addictive personality, thinking that I'll never have another friend but this one, and I've got to be all by myself, and I don't like that. We're almost addicted to the dichotomy and the chaos of the
Yes.
need. So we're addicted to needing, understanding that we want in love the interaction, but it's good interaction is good, but bad interaction is not better. Where,
Yes.
in Hollywood, we've done it, and we did the movie before, and it was like, oh yeah, any publicity you can get is great publicity, good, bad, or indifferent, because somebody's talking with you. It's the Cat Williams experiment that's going on right now, or by the time we're watching this, that went on months ago, that still may be going on by the time this season 2 airs, right? But we need to not be so caught up in having the interaction as instead we need to look at what interactions we're having. They've got
Hmm.
to be, like you said, they've got to be something that's uplifting us, that's healthy for us, and not detrimental. And
Yeah.
that's got to be okay.
And understanding that we may not get it right every time, but when
Yeah.
we're willing to do this, look at where we are
Yeah.
in the scenario, look at what has happened, what are the patterns that continue to happen,
Sure.
why do I keep putting myself in the situation,
That's right.
who are these people that I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
I This may not be a thing, but I coined it many years ago. I have a friend that I believe is conflict addictive. um, I know I'm not qualified to diagnose, but that's what I say. And we have people that are like that, that any attention is good attention,
Yeah.
even negative attention. And is that true? I've judgment around that in my face and in my heart. So I'll work on that. Yeah. All of my, playing dominoes with my dad and my uncles. If I domino players, I consider myself a dominologist. Um, but if I get 25 on a board or 30,
Yeah.
and I'm hitting them fives, but I'm getting close to the nearing the end of the game, and I'm choosing to lock the game, but I have the big six in my hand,
Yeah.
which means that everybody else probably has something else that's smaller than that number. Then me sacrificing to get the 25, all money is not good money if I don't have a way out to use that six and end up, losing the game. Yes, you start with the big six at the next round, but at the end of the day, if I'm taking that money to what does they say, cut my nose off to spite my face,
Hmm.
is that really what I intended to do?
And that's tough, man, because some folks don't understand that all romantic and erotic love ain't good romantic and erotic love, right? Because 7 or 8 different versions of love or variations of love, right? So in English language, you don't get a chance to understand the definition. You have to watch the action. So that's why I clarify that piece. But some of us are just dying so much for love, they don't care what it is. Don't
Yeah.
care where it comes from. Doesn't care. We don't care about how much it hurts because, and you may have said this at the beginning of the broadcast, but maybe I missed it. But because when you talked about identifying, what was step one? Let me look back through. I mean, post step one for those
Admit
who
that
may have, huh? Oh,
yeah. Let me
so
go
those who
back.
may admit there's something to be forgiven.
Yeah.
There's an implication here, an implied meaning here that you didn't exactly say is that we got to look at ourselves and
Mhm.
get to the root of what's wrong, and then only then can we spend some time in isolation by ourselves and in meditation in reflection and asking
Reflection.
ourselves those questions and praying, and for those who believe in God or whoever they want to manifest as their God. It's the same person, just unless you're a cult person, it's a whole different thing. But you gotta ask, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Why do
Mhm.
I why am I not happy with such and such? Why am I angry at why does it keep reoccurring? Because I refuse to believe
Mhm.
that some of these problems that we have in relationships are isolations and unique unicorns, when
Mhm.
in reality they're the same problem going over and over in multiple
Yeah.
relationships, where we may be the root cause, or something that we're triggered by
Yeah.
causes us to cut folks off and be severed. And for me, my trigger was or is, and I'm working through it. And so I'm speaking it into existence. That my trigger was
Mhm.
being overlooked,
Mhm.
and that's an issue for me. So
Mhm.
in relationships where I'm overlooked and
Mhm.
dismissed,
Mhm.
I will cut a person off. What's this? I'll
Mhm.
cut a brother, right? And what is it on social media? I'll cut a ninja, right? Where I just need to. I don't want to
Yeah.
be overlooked. Don't play me short. There's nothing short about me, not even my height. you
Yep.
know? So there are some the commonality in most of my lost relationships is me because
Mm-hmm.
somebody played me short
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to have it. That's the Eunice Carlisle said. I'll put up a barrier. I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something I have to admit that that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
And then how to manage through relationships with people who do that to me.
Yes.
That's really what you're asking and teaching folks how to have those tools
Yes.
and understand that all of our relationships have gone south because of a couple of key reasons.
Yes.
And they're
And that
usually
is,
us.
yes. My dad would say, if you have a problem everywhere you go, people don't like you. You know, your boss hates you. You're not happy here. You're not happy there. He said, it don't matter where you move. You can move to Timbuktu. If you taking you with you, you the problem,
If you're
right?
keeping you with you, you're the problem.
You're the problem.
Yeah.
So until you can admit the sequence, well, first sit with yourself, right? We mentioned this earlier. Sit with yourself, identify those things where you're having difficulty forgiving yourself or forgiving others. And
Yeah.
again, you'll recognize some patterns. And if you want to talk through that, I'm here. Craig is here. Um, you can do that. Be reflective and be honest. Be
Yeah.
honest with yourself. This is not something that you want to do in a room full of people anyway. um, but get with yourself, have a conversation with yourself, write it down. What are those things? And then, Craig, you actually ended on a really beautiful note to say, I identified that when I did this, when I admitted that there was a problem, I identified that being dismissed, like myself,
Mhm.
overlooked, is a trigger for me.
Yeah.
That's actually step two. What is
Mm.
it? Name it, call it out. So then now we can move into, taking away its power by identifying when these things happen. What are you going to do in response to that?
Yeah.
Because trigger is going to trigger. They're triggers are going to trigger, and there are multiple ways to be triggered, and identifying those ways can help you quickly snap yourself out of that when it happens, instead of going into the downward spiral and the depression and the grief and this and that and the other. We can process it to take away its power and get you back into a place where you're in control of who you are, what you do, and how you move forward.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've come to the end of another Knight and Craig episode, and I don't even know what to tell you, Shell. This one we were talking about, man. Is step one going to be more than a week or two? And I think the beautiful part of this series is that since it's going to build, there's 5 steps. There'll be ways to flow back and forth, not and maybe resisting the temptation to jump through, right?
Yes.
But as you've shown and taken us to jumping through, but bringing us back
Hmm.
to the steps, we
Hmm.
should be able to flow back and forth between the steps that we have covered and are covering. So for those who are catching us at different points, go back. Encourage you as the series unfolds.
Hmm.
Rewatch, take it, go, and we're going to bring you through because some of the examples we may give in a current episode for different steps and what we flow through may not be the same ones from previous shows, but it'll
Absolutely.
also remind you ourselves what is good for us because there's
Yeah.
so many things in our life that these 5 steps are going to help us with that I think I know I'm excited to get to step 5 or week 5 or the 5th time. We may have to record these all the same days if I get there, you know, because it helps. I know I need the help.
Too much pressure, too much pressure. We definitely want you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Knight and Craig. That is Knight, Knight, spell out and Craig. You can also choose to email us about show ideas or commentary. We do look at everything on YouTube and make sure that we're not missing any opportunities for show ideas or commentary that would help us make this even better. You can reach out to us at email as well at nightandcraigshow@gmail.com. We're here for you, and we thank you for being here with us on our journey. Talk to you
One thing I
soon.
want to add to before we jump out is
Yeah.
I was saying if there's anything that we've said here that's helped you, let us know how these have
Yes.
helped because it'll help us build as we go through where to help people, how to even post on our social and get that community going where we can help tailor things. I know with Dr. Knight, she's got some great opportunities to learn. She's got availability for coaching for those who want to join our coaching community, as well as all of the other aspects that we're both involved in. But if you're looking for someone to coach and help, I mean, I know a lot of coaches, and I've been through other coaches. I said, but she is definitely one of the best in the business. Not because she's my, my cousin, my favorite cousin, but because she's one of the great favorite people that I know, and who's brilliant in her field. So I tell you, if you want to get to know her, I definitely encourage you to reach out to her, because it's amazing. I use this almost as a free, Dr. Knight.
Oh, no, you're totally using it as a free coaching session.
Yes, ma'am. I ain't gonna lie.
Wing Wednesday is our business meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking
about. You pay for it then.
I got you. This Wing Wednesday's on. We may need to have it before the end of the month. So,
There you go.
But anyway, awesome. We're out of here. We'll see you all next time on Knight&Craig.
Thank you.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the pressure so clean. Hold on, you better catch a God, throw him the scenes. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.